die, die, die. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome. I am Rabbi Javier Katapan, and I am joined this morning by Leslie Zucker and our technical team. A big thank you to our BOW committee for bringing us beyond our walls, and to our digital docents who are managing our streaming. If you are technically inclined and would like to help, please reach out to the office for more information. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, prayer pages and helpful links can be found in the comments. If you're joining us on our virtual sanctuary, I am told that you can find everything right above the player. On Facebook Live, please say hello by typing Shabbat Shalom in the comments line, and don't forget to tell us where you are located. And also don't forget to click return.
It's very nice that you got the blue memo. I'm just noticing we're both wearing blue this morning.
Nice. Well, I got a lot of blue, so it's not going to be hard. For immediate technological help, you may reach out to CBT's Technical Assistance Line, TAL, at 913-303-1134. Please text the number, and a docent will call you as soon as they can. For those of you joining us in person here, a reminder that we are calling the pages numbers in brackets, and please take a moment to silence all your electronic devices. Make sure. Again, thank you and welcome again. We join together on page 186 as we sing Mode Ani, 186. We continue together on page 194 in the middle of the page. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch ata Adonai, rofeh chol basar umafli la'asot. Page 196.
Elohai
We continue on page 198. We share these prayers together. We do half and half, and we invite you to try to do each one of the blessings on one breath.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lesech v'bina lehavchin ben yom uven laila.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivri.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir hasurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten layahev koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavir sheina me'enai utnuma me'afapai.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzelem Elohim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bat chorim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara.
Amen.
Page 212 in the square brackets, we continue with Pezukei the Zimra verses of praise.
Baruch shemar v'haya haolam, baruch hu.
Baruch Oseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer ve'oseh.
Baruch gozer u'makayim, Baruch merachem al haaretz,
Baruch merachem al habriot, Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireav.
Baruch Hailad, v'kayam lanetzach,
Baruch bodeh u'matzil, Baruch Shemo. Page 214 in the middle of the page, we join together in words from Psalm 92, beginning with the words Tzadik Katamar. Tzadik Katamar Yifrach Ke'erez balmanot balmanot yizeh shetuni bebeit Adonai bechatzot Eloheinu yafritu on Yeduvun beseva b'sheni melananim lehakim ki Ashar Adonai tzuri Page 218, we continue together with Psalm 150, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol haneshama te'alena, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol haneshama te'alena, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We continue together on page 226. If you're able, we invite you to stand and join us for Baruch. Lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 et Baruch Adonai, HaMevorach, Le'olam, Continue together in the middle of page 228, beginning with the words Or Chadash. It's in the Hebrew. Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir, al Tzion Ta'ir, Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir. Page 232. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך.
והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Amen. We continue together on page 239. Emet, there is no place where you are not, even in the wilderness there is your word. Emet, that pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing out and rejoice. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא.
שירה חדשה שיפור גאוני, לשם כל שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא, עושה פלא. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדה חינומך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב הושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחלקל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. מקדש את שמך בעולם, בשם שמעתי שמו טוב במרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה על זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ,
Yotzreinu, 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 Kulanu ke'echad, ke'echad, be'or panecha. Sim shalom. Sim shalom, tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Echad. Sim shalom, tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Echad. We continue our service with the service for the reading of the Torah, beginning on page 367. If you're able, please rise and join us. For those of you following at home, just a reminder that there is a link to the Torah reading in the comments in the e-news. Also, you can click there and you'll see the comments there. For those of you here in person, the Torah reading is on page 165. And for what I'm going to say in just a moment, I need you to go to page 165 and open page 165. And keep it there for a minute until I tell you to look for something. Let me make sure that it is the correct. I'm sorry, coming to. So that's interesting because that page looks different than the updated edition of the Chumash, of that Chumash that I have at home, which is finally, I can work with it, but I'm glad I took a look at it. There's something in the Hebrew you'll see in just a moment. But before we get there, I want to mention a few things as part of context to this week's Torah portion. It's Chayei Sarah, and it really begins with the death of Sarah. The name Chayei Sarah means the life of Sarah, which means the death. So this is how it is. Every time you see in the life of so and so was, means they're dying. So that's how it is. Just make sure that you understand it. So, and as I mentioned, I think last evening, chapter 24, which is the chapter, the section we're reading from chapter 24, it's actually one of the longest chapters in the entire Hebrew Bible. It has 67 verses. There's only one more chapter that has 68 in the book of Leviticus. I went back and checked to make sure that I was correct. So it's pretty long. Now, that means absolutely nothing because the chapters and verses were created by a Christian monk in the 16th century. So for Jewish purposes and for interpretation, it means nothing, but I thought you should know. It's long, and it's chapter 24. And we will be reading actually, comes towards the end of the story, chapter 24, verses 53 through 58. That's simply because this has a little section that is interesting, but it's also because this is where the third cycle of the three-cycle year that we read the Torah through kind of puts us right there in that section of the story. But because the story of how Rebekah is found to be a suitable wife for Isaac is in a very long chapter, you need a little context to be able to actually grasp what's going on in the story. I'm using mostly an interpretation found in a book called Torah Queries, spelled Queueries, which is a weekly commentary on the Hebrew Bible, and it's done by queer people, queer scholars and rabbis and all that, so that you know where it's coming from. And this one is by Rachel Brody, who is an educator. And she mentions that when she took some Hebrew Bible classes at the Hebrew University, one of the professors there says something like this: in the Bible, women are rarely born, they almost never die, and when they give birth, it's usually to a boy. So now, some of the things are true about Rebekah, right? We have no idea when or how she was born. We actually do not have a record of Rebekah dying. Now, I'm talking this in the context of Sarah. Sarah will be an exception. We don't know anything about Rivka. We think, according to the Torah, she was buried on the side of the road, basically. We don't know nothing about that. But we do know that she gave birth. But she's special because she gave birth to two boys at the same time. So she fits the the description to a T. And those are, of course, Jacob and Esau. But in the middle of her story, there is this narrative in chapter 24, which is pretty long. And again, Eliezer, who is a servant to Abraham, goes back to the land of Abraham's birth, Aram Naharaim, to find a wife for Abraham's son, Isaac. And then Eliezer arrives and decides to have a little test to see which woman will rise up to the top as the best choice. And you all remember the test? Yes? Very excellent, Jonathan. Thank you. Yes, so the test is that she will come out and offer water to him and his camels. And you already know who is the one who does it? Rebekah, right? Now, one part that I never thought until I read this interpretation is, what does it say about Rebekah? Of course, what we all know, or we think we know, is that Rebekah is the most hospitable one, and therefore she's the right match. But there's something else working on in this text. First of all, Rebekah is, according to Eliezer, very much physically attractive. So it's not just that she is kind, but she also is good looking, So, this is an arranged marriage, so Eliezer is looking after his master's interest, And so that's the first plan. But the second piece that I really never thought about is that she's also pretty strong and muscular. What would it take for one woman to give water not only to Eliezer, but also to the camels? A lot of capability for drawing hundreds of gallons of water, all for Eliezer's camels in a very short time. So she was good looking, she was very strong, probably very muscular, be able to, draw water. And also, she's pretty independent. Other points that I think are important to mention that are in the story, but I think I've missed in the past. One of them is she's pretty forward and independent. So, first of all, she talks to a total stranger, right? We think about this from the moment of Eliezer, from the point of view of Eliezer, he was looking for them, but many of the other women probably weren't going to talk to a stranger at the well, a place where women were more vulnerable usually because, again, they were bending down to get things from the well. And she also takes candy from strangers. Eliezer offers her all these candies and gifts, and she that, and more than that, she invites the guy to her house, all right, to host him as a guest at her family home. So, if you remember anything about Isaac, Isaac was not the most outgoing, independent kind of guy. And this is in the context, I think the rabbis are thinking about this too, when Isaac went with his father, knowing that perhaps his father was going to sacrifice him, he was basically pretty submissive to go with him. So Eliezer is kind of trying to find someone, I think, to bring him out of his shell, and Rebecca seems to fit the mold. So this, I think, sets up the scene or the stage for what it could be a nuanced understanding of gender, especially in the case of Rebecca. And here's where your text comes into being. So I want you to find, and I'm going to have to, I'm not, Leslie, could I have the book, please? Because what was on the updated version is okay, not a problem. Thank you. So on page 165, and those of you at home don't have this, so you're going to have to trust us. We're looking at one of the verses, verse 57, all right? Now, the verse 57, I'm going to read it in English to make sure that we understand what the verse says in English, but that's not what it says in Hebrew necessarily. You mean, they're mistranslating? Well, no. And they said, let us call the girl and ask for her reply. So basically what's going on is they are about to send her away with Eliezer at the end of the story, and they call Rivka and they ask her what she says, and she says, I will. Another example of her agency in this whole thing. They ask her to make the decision, they don't make it for her, and she says, yet. So strong character by all accounts. Now, Rebecca is described in many instances, actually, in about 5 different verses on chapter 22 with 3 Hebrew letters. If you're looking at the Hebrew, for those of you here in person, we're looking at the top, we're looking at column on the left, second line, third word from the left. And the word is Lamed Nun Ain Resh. All right? Le means 2. So the word in question is Nun Ain Resh. So what does the word Nun Ain Resh mean? The word means, everywhere else, a male young man. Na'ar. Right? Now, in the text that we mentioned earlier in the story of Isaac, Isaac is also called, this has been a lot of discussion on the story of the Akedah, of the sacrifice of Isaac, because he's called there a Na'ar. Abraham says to his servants, I will, you will stay here, and I, ve'anahar, and me and the young boy will go up to the mountain and will come back. So Rebecca here is called Na'ar. Now, there is a tradition of, I don't know if called amending the text, but reading the text differently than when it's written. And those of us who prepare to read Torah know about this, because when you're preparing to read Torah, you have the Hebrew without vowels, and then you have a book that shows you the Hebrew with vowels. So here, the Hebrew with vowels shows you a letter, a vowel A under the resh, so you should read Na'ara, right? Because of the context, right? You're talking about Rebecca. But did you know when that thing was put in there? Only 1,000 years ago. That means that for 2,000 years, we're not sure if we read the word Na'ar or Na'ara. In other words, we were not sure whether Rebecca was a boy or a girl. Now, it's not that complicated. It's not so progressive as I think in my view. What's going on here is that so you have it's called the Ketiv and Kre. So the Ketiv is how it's written, and the Kre is how you're supposed to read it. Now, in this edition, if you're looking at the Hebrew, I'm getting a little technical here. Next, on top of the word lenar, na'ara, there's a little asterisk. And if you go to the side, at the bottom of the column on the right, it says, Hane'ara keri, kaf resh yud, means you should read na'ara. Right. The Masoretes who put the vowels and all that in the 9th century had a tradition, and it kind of makes sense. But what is really happening here in biblical terms is that the word na'ar doesn't mean young boy. It doesn't mean young girl. It means youth. Meaning that, and this is something that is very hard for us to understand, but until these men and women reached puberty, they were considered a na'ar. They were considered someone whose gender is undefined, indeterminate. So that's not how we look at the world. Now we look everything is a binary kind of thing, and this is how this queerist commentary raises the questions, because really biblical society was not so interested in that. They were interested in the things that Eliezer was interested in. Is this person, man or woman, capable to do the work that we will need them to do? In other words, listen, they're trying to get someone else to be in their family of Isaac, and it has to be an able body, right? It has to be someone who's strong enough to go get the water, because we need someone to go get water every day. Right? We need someone who is good looking so that it will look good with the rest of, all those things, that's what they were really interested in. And someone who's also takes initiative. And Rebecca, by the way, if you know the story, will become the real kingmaker from now on, right? Because Rebecca is the actual person who decides who is going to be the heir of the Jewish people, not Isaac. Isaac is very passive. And that actually fits into the model, right? Because from the very beginning, Isaac is a very passive character. He lets his father take him, and bind him up on a mountain almost to sacrifice him. That's pretty passive. And Rebecca is the active character. So I think what this interpretation invites us to read is not so much to read male and female, the binary stuff all the time, but to think about the individual and their characters and how they relate to others and how they, play into the story. So I think this makes Rebecca a much more central and likable character. I never quite liked Yitzchak myself, but Rivka, I think, raises up to the top now in the rest of the story. And from now on, and this is perhaps why the chapter is so long, from now on, Rebecca will be the deciding factor in the story of the Jewish people. So I believe we are going to read then. Give me 1 second to find the place here again. All right, I would like to invite Andrew Kirsten to come up for the Aliyah. Give me 1 second. All right, let me show you where it is.
Yeah, I was having trouble finding the words.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'm right here for you. Good.
Baruch Adonai Amvarah.
Baruch Adonai mevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Amvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Amvarach Le'olam Va'ed. I'll add it.
You're fine.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher barabanu b'chol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Hold on to that, please. Thank you. ויוצא העבד כלי כסף וכלי זהב ובגדים וייתן לרבקה ומדנות נתן לאחיה לאמה ויאכלו וישתו הוא והאנשים אשר עמו וילינו ויקומו בבוקר ויאמר שלחוני לאדוני ויאמר אחיה ואמה תשב הנערה איתנו ימים או עשור אחר תלך ויאמר עליהם אל תאחרו אותי ואדוני הצליח דרכי שלחוני ואלך לאדוני ויאמרו נקרא לנערה ונשלעה את פיה ויקראו לרבקה ויאמרו אליה התלכי עם האיש הזה ותאמר אלך.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natah b'dechenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Yashar Koch, it's great to have you.
Likewise.
Shabbat Shalom. As we gather on this Shabbat, we turn our thoughts to those in need of healing. You may have access to the Mishaberach list through the e-news that you received yesterday morning. You can also follow the links in the comments. If you like to offer names, please type them in the comments so we can all see them. Please go ahead and type them. And for us here in person, have an opportunity to offer names as we go around the sanctuary. Chris Gray. To think of those in need of healing, on page 371, we join our voices in the Mi Sheberach prayer. As we offer a prayer for those in need of healing, we also think of those who help in healing health workers all over our world during this pandemic. May those who care for the sick with their hands, their voices, and their hearts be blessed with courage and stamina. May those who pursue healing through medical skill and knowledge be blessed with insight, patience, and compassion. And may all of us, the sick and the well together, find courage and hope. And let us say, Amen. Service for the reading of the Torah concludes on page 374 with Etz Chaim. If you're able, please stand and join us. We remain standing as we continue our service on page 586 with Aleinu L'Shabeach.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
As we prepare for a moment of remembrance, I would like to share with all of you a prayer poem written by Aldan Solovey in response to the October 27th, 2018 shooting at the Tree of Life or L'Simcha congregation in Pittsburgh. It's called Tree of Life, Pittsburgh. Tree of Life, revive our souls and reach our days. Entreating your blessings, O God of peace, fill our hearts with comfort. letting your Torah shine in the fullness of our love. Faith in you, O God, eternal source of blessings. Praying for healing in the depth of despair, thanking God for the survivors, thanking God for the first responders, sorrow crushing our hearts, bereaved beyond belief, unite us in our love, returning to you in faith, God of Israel, healer of generations. Tree of life, Redeemer of Israel, and live in this moment with healing, and live in this moment with hope. O Rock of Israel, forget not the Jews of Pittsburgh. Let your love flow in the days ahead for justice and peace everlasting. We remember the victims of the shooting: Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice and Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, Irving Younger. We remember observing the Shloshim period for Lori Phillips, loved one of Paula Frimerman and Marcia Riedmaster, and Sulene Botwin Horwitz, member of our congregation. And on this Shabbat, we remember the following yortzites: Norton Barron, Erwin Blitz, Isidore Cohen, Meyer Dubinsky, Abe Flickier, Sonia Gandel, Maurice J. Gould, Harry Hamovitz, Gregory Hobson, Claire Kornblum, Jack Levine, Neil Meltzer, Irvin Meyer, Simon Ozer, Rachel Patel, Jeff Raymond, Arthur Rovick, Sandra Schaefer, Gerald Sherman, Valerie Sickle, Elaine Waxman, Rox Wexling, Adam Zach, Edith Zucker. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. Page 598, together we rise as we join in Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמה דברה חירותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון ובמכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דא אמירם בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen.
Would like to invite Aviva Simons, Director of Member Engagement for our congregation, for some greetings and announcements. Aviva.
Good morning, Boker
Good
Tov.
morning, Boker Tov.
Thank you very much to everyone who made this service possible: Rabbi Katapan, Leslie Zucker, Dave Zucker, and Peter Pizer from home, who was our digital docent this morning. So thank you to all, and how wonderful to have so many people in person with us this morning, and online, of course. So looking ahead, next Shabbat, we will be back here Friday at 6:30, which, believe it or not, is November 5th. A little crazy, but November 5th, join us in person, online, Erev Shabbat services Friday at 6:30. And then, of course, we will come together on Shabbat morning like this as well. Looking ahead further into November, on Friday, November 12th, we're very honored to welcome Todd Stetner. Todd is a retired Jewish professional here in Kansas City who studies the Civil War. So Todd will be sharing with us about soldiers, sailors, and spies, Jews in the Civil War, which will be quite appropriate considering that the day before is Veterans Day. So we will commemorate Veterans Day together here with Todd. What will happen is the service will begin at 6:30, and then immediately following, Todd will be right here sharing words with us. So everyone at home, it's the same live stream link. There is no new link to press. And everyone here, we will just transition from the service into hearing from Todd. Looking further ahead into November, we have our service of spiritual renewal for Hanukkah on Sunday, November 14th at 3 o'clock. This is in person at Village Shalom. So if you're interested in attending in person, RSVP information is in the e-news, and it will also be recorded. So we'll share it with our entire community after. And I think last but not least, please make sure to download our app where you can find all of this information and more. And Dave Zucker, our app extraordinaire, will be here on Sunday, November 7th and 14th for App 101. So if you're wondering, oh, what can I do with this? Or how do I make an account within the app? Join us on Sunday in the morning, and Dave will be here to share his knowledge with all of us. And certainly, last but not least, thank you very much to Jack and Cindy Garfinkel for sponsoring this Shabbat's To-Go Oneg To-Go, in honor of their 37th wedding anniversary, this past Thursday, October 28th. Shabbat Shalom.
We conclude our time together. Thank you, Aviva, with Adon Olam on page 625. If you're able, please stand and join us.
Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Hashem Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra,
Yetzid Nivra,
Leit Nasa,
Lehet Nasa V'Chetzo Kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'acharei Kiklot HaKol, Levado Yimlok Nora Adon Olam, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Hove, Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Hashem Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra,
יציר נברא
Leit Nasa,
לעת נשא וחצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון
Last
עולם
verse.
בידו אחיד רוחי ועת תשען בעירה אדון עולם ועם רוחי יביאתי אדוני לי ולא ירא אדון עולם אדון עולם
Hashem Malach,
אשר מלך
B'terem Kol,
בטרם כל
Yitzir Nivra,
יציר נברא
Leit Nasa,
לעת נשא וחצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Take care of each
Shabbat
other out there.